Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to council for January 6th. First meeting of council for this year and for the final year of this term of council. So lots of work to get done this year. Looking forward to it. Hope everyone had a happy new year and restful Christmas holiday or winter holiday, whatever you want to call it. And look forward to getting a lot done. So need a motion to accept the agenda. Moved by Way, second by Gillis. Any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof?
Yeah, for the Whaley Green, I'll have to step out.
General nature thereof is, you do fill out paperwork.
I did, family owns property that's in the drainage area.
Thank you. Any other declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Minutes of the preceding meeting, December 16th. Moved by Pickard, seconded by Bookner. Any errors or omissions in that minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Business Horizon for the minutes, CL 01/2026. Go ahead, Danny.
Good, ready, council. I have nothing to add. If council has questions, I have nothing.
Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, do we have a mover? Moved by Way, seconded by Gillis, resolved the council of township surplus offered to report CR 01/2026. This is writing for the minutes of December 16, 2025. This information. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. First delegation, we're a couple minutes early, but I'm pretty sure that they don't mind coming to the table early. So if Sarah and the warden want to come forward, we'd be glad to hear your delegation.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. If Julie will be putting up a slide, maybe in a minute, I can start talking while she does that. So thank you for the opportunity to come today. We are excited to be here to present to you the final draft version of our new Safe and Well Oxford plan, the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan for Oxford County. As the mayor mentioned, my name is Sarah Hamalecki, and I'm the manager of strategic initiatives and intergovernmental relations at Oxford County. My connection to the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan is one of the staff co-leads. We also have obviously the warden here with me today, who is the chair of our current existing steering committee for Safe and Well Oxford. Today we have not a ton of information. We've kind of tried to provide a little bit more communication throughout the process. You guys have a staff report as well as the final draft of the plan itself. We want to highlight a few things this morning and then obviously be available if there's any questions. So I'm hoping by now that all of you are at least somewhat familiar with community safety and well-being plans. On that note, I will say that I thought I was fairly knowledgeable about them, and if you asked me a year ago, I would have been pretty confident in my response. You can ask me again, and I think I'm even more confident now. A lot has been learned over the last year, in particular going through this review and update process. I think one of the main things that I have highlighted on this slide there is the fact that it is a shared framework for collaboration. And the community safety wellbeing plans are a little bit unique. They are legislated through the Community Safety and Policing Act of 2019. So it's a legislative document, but uniquely, I would say they don't actually have a lot of power, so to speak, themselves. The plans really represent a framework, a guide, in with shared goals that our community partners and stakeholders can all work towards. The actual work is happening by the partners and the stakeholders, and the plans don't actually really get to control sort of like what happens and necessarily how it happens. We rely on our partners and our community service providers to do that work and to through their conversations with their clients and things like that, be able to determine what is the best way to meet our goals. So, as you all are aware, I did mention, obviously, it's a legislated plan. In Oxford County, we are a little bit unique in that the county itself is not legislated to have a community safety wellbeing plan, but the 8 area municipalities are. And back in 2021, all 8 area municipalities passed resolutions to endorse the existing plan that we have now, and then to ask Oxford County to lead it on their behalf. I personally think that has worked out quite well. I think it's a very efficient way of doing it. There are other municipalities that have similar structures, and it seems to be a very efficient way to do it. So we are kind of continuing on with that approach as of right now. I think just wanting to kind of highlight that unique sort of the purpose of community safety wellbeing plans. And I know I will be shocked if the warden doesn't mention this, but it has been really, I think, crucial to our understanding. And having sat at the summit as well in November, I believe that was, listening to our community members and the service providers, it helped to sort of solidify, and by understanding really what the purpose is of these plans, made it even more, I think, just helped to enlighten, I think, how we're actually going to be able to implement this plan. So I am excited about that. It's difficult because there's so many different wants and needs and priorities and things to consider. And I think we've got a solid plan here that we will be able to implement well. All right, turn over to you.
So, as I think most of you recall, the process of updating the plan began earlier in 2025. And the first, formal part of that was, in May, we engaged Strategy Corps to begin work, which included reviewing existing data in the current plan. And then the Canadian Index of Wellbeing survey, which offered an opportunity for all residents of Oxford County to participate in the survey. And they then conducted an interview process engagement with through a survey of all residents of Oxford County, member municipalities and Safe Oxford Plan, individual councillors, as I'm sure each of you all know, groups that engage in the Safe Oxford Plan or could engage in the Safe Oxford Plan, and individual members of the community one-on-one interviews in some cases as well. All that was to say, what is working with current plan? What is not working? What could work better? Where do the groups that participate in this want this to go? Where are they willing to go? I'm not gonna shock Sarah by not mentioning it. I will say through this process, I learned a lot of things too about community safety wellbeing plan. One of the things was the thing that I frankly don't like, but it is the reality of the situation, which is that the plan is just our guiding principles as member municipalities to these groups that say, these are the priorities that our community members have told us. This is where we would like to go. But we don't actually exert any control over these groups, whether United Way or Children's Aid or CMHA want to come together and what they want to do and what they're willing to do. And frankly, what they're able to do is kind of up to them. We're just telling them, this is what our community has told us. This is where we think we would need to go. This is what we think will ultimately, in the context of the legislation from the Solicitor General office, will reduce demands on policing and therefore make our communities safer and more well. But largely it's up to those groups to do what they want to do. We don't have any control over them. So what we do as municipalities is do this survey work and tell these groups, this is what our residents told us they think will make them feel safer and more well. And we facilitate then, collaboratively, them getting together and trying to find ways to actually do that work. But it's largely up to them what they do. So through the insights of those various surveys, we came up with a draft plan. And when I say we, I mean Sarah came up with a draft plan with Strategy Corps, and then presented that at the summit, which some of you were at, and got feedback at the summit about what in this draft works, doesn't work. So this was an iterative engagement process. It wasn't one we did the survey, did the plan, here it is. This is being gone through multiple times, as I'm sure you're all aware. So the summit gave us that feedback on the priority areas, the goals, the intended outcomes, and Strategy Corps took that feedback from the summit and made additional edits, sharing the updated version, again, with partners and stakeholders, including yourselves. So again, another iteration, and that is what you have in your agenda package today. So what you have in your agenda package today is the voice of residents, community groups, agencies that participate, yourselves as individuals, your municipality formally, all the other municipalities, all the other councillors in the county have all had an opportunity here. So hopefully, if all that has been done right, I mean, without a doubt, probably more so than any other policy that you pass, as I'm sure you all know, but you know, no policy is perfect. This one is certainly a result of collaboration and engagement with even more groups, so to some extent, a little bit more diluted. But we do think it accurately reflects the voice through this engagement of what residents think will actually make them feel safer and more well.
So switching gears a little bit just to the actual plan itself, you will notice that obviously one of the more noticeable changes is probably the fact that there are now 6 priority areas. So the very first plan started with 4, gender-based violence was added kind of like midway in there. And now we have a 6th priority area. So the new priority area is called affordability and economic stability. And I think it addresses a lot of the concerns that I know I personally heard throughout from residents of things like food security, affordability, poverty, things like that. So that is a fairly significant change. I think the other one that I would like to note that is a more significant change is people and belonging. So this is somewhat the former DEI priority area that existed. I think we've changed the term to make it a little bit more encompassing, but I also think that the actual goal of that priority area has also evolved to be, I would say, almost even more inclusive of other things in terms of helping our residents and community members to feel like they belong within our communities. So those are, I would say, so the 2 larger ones. Other than that, the 4 other priority areas are ultimately the same. There is a little bit of tweaks as far as some of the names. We just kind of updated some naming and things like that. But that's the priority areas at least. So a couple of other key changes. I actually forgot to include it on the slide, and I was a little bit shocked at myself of not even noting. I think one of the I think hopefully most impactful changes is the fact that the consultants did recommend having a full-time staff member dedicated to doing this work. And it was included in the Oxford County budget. It is not official until our bylaw is passed in next week, I believe. But there has been a position approved in the 2026 budget for Oxford County, within Oxford County to lead the work of the community safety wellbeing plan. So this is really great news. I think it will be a huge help to our service providers. The role will be coordinator, is what we will be calling it. And one of the main functions will be to provide support to the situation table. You may be aware that there's also a femicide prevention table that was also needing some support to help maintain all of that work. The coordinator will also provide support to our action coalitions and be a liaison between the advisory committee and our action coalitions. So that is like I said, huge change, great news. I think it's a really good progression for us in order to be able to help really advance the work of this community safety wellbeing plan. So another change that you may recall or have noticed is the fact, sorry, that's okay. The steering committee, that's what we have, our sort of like the main body or steering group of the current plan. It will be called an advisory committee. So the name's changing, the composition will be changing as well too. We'll obviously have to maintain the legislated roles that are included. But we will be adding, I think, a significant change is the fact that there will be a representative from each of the area municipalities sitting on that advisory committee to help maintain that connection, communication channels, things like that. That group will also be meeting quarterly. In the past, our steering committee met monthly. So it will be meeting a little bit less frequently. And I think the idea is that what I foresee anyways is that FTE will help to be able to advance more of that work in between so that the advisory committee does not need to meet as frequently, which will be really nice. less time for our service providers and things like that, so. Another important thing, I think this was, I felt personally a little bit more passionate about this next part is what I'm calling them as the foundational values. I feel like it was, there were things that had been on my radar or ideas that I had in my mind in terms of the implementation of what it might look like. And there were some things that I wanted to do, and when we went to the summit, it actually, I would say, really confirmed in my mind that these things are important to our community. Youth is one of them, but I think we all know that our youth are our future. The community safety wellbeing plans are meant to be preventative, proactive in nature. And if we focus on the youth, that will only help us in the long run. So I wanted to look for a way that we could sort of identify these things, which, like I said, have come up with the term of foundational values, and you will notice on the next slide that they are kind of included as being all encompassing. And really what I foresee of these things is that they almost become ingrained into our plan, and they are values that are considered incorporated in all of the work that we do. So local voices is another one that I've included, and what I mean by that are, for example, talking to people with lived experiences. That was very apparent to me. And yes, we did some of that throughout the process of actually like reviewing it and creating the plan. But I think as we continue to do the actual work and we're implementing the changes and solutions and problem solving, then we need to constantly be engaging with our residents. So I chose to call it local voices because I think that is actually even more reflective and ties into the second part of the whole urban and rural lens. And I heard quite clearly that we all, and I'm sure you guys all know this, that the experiences in our more rural communities can be very different than what's happening in our urban communities. And it's one of the things I love about living in Oxford County and working in Oxford County is that those two things. And so I want to make sure that is an important piece of how we go through sort of like problem solving and solutions and figuring out what works, is making sure that we are including both of those needs, because they can be very different. And then lastly, just to kind of highlight that the other foundational value, I would call it, is the data and metrics. And I think we all know that it's important to be making informed decisions, and often that is through data and evidence. We did some of that before, but it wasn't necessarily done as well as we could have, I think, in my opinion. And so it will be more of a focus. I think there's a ton of data that's available, and we want to utilize that data a lot more as we work through this next iteration of the plan. Lastly, to highlight another change is just the action coalitions. Some of them sort of did this already. I know the Mental Health and Addictions Action Coalition had a strategic priority, or they had plans anyways. But we will be asking each of the action coalitions to have what we would kind of call a work plan, to be able to identify the things that they are working on, and sort of improving in that communication channel back to the advisory committee as well. I think that was all I wanted to highlight for that.
So this slide is essentially the governance model with a few other things highlighted there to make it clear how this is intended to function. If you look on the left, the large circle is the governance model itself, with the Safe and Well Oxford coordinator at the center, the advisory committee, situation and femicide prevention tables and action coalitions around that. And outside that, then the foundational values that Sarah mentioned. Beneath that then are the priority areas listed across the bottom. And adjacent there is that little circle of the Heart Hub and Wellness Center, which is, while not explicitly a part of the community safety wellbeing plan, is obviously a large component of it, because it's dealing primarily in a very first-hand basis with mental health and substance use issues, which is obviously two of the priority areas that are addressed here. Off to the right then is the shared commitments, and then the success enablers, which it talks to, the shared commitments talks to, as Sarah said, the how are we going to do this work? What are the commitments that we're gonna prioritize as we do the work? And the success enablers then, as it says, what are the things that are gonna allow that work to happen, facilitate that work to happen, make it happen in the way that we wanna do it in, consistent with the shared commitments. So this model here, this slide, is intended to show how that all comes together, and how it will be done. Well, I mean, certainly one thing that I've learned through this process is that first of all, the value of that safe and well coordinator is something that we learned from other communities, from Strategy 4, but also from other communities around the province, is the value of having that person whose absolute priority on their desk is the safe and well Oxford plan, that it's not a quarter of their week or 2 to 3 days of their week, but this is their job. This is what they do. This is what they get done. Places around the province that have done that have allocated, I mean, frankly, there's some municipalities that have allocated 2 or 3 people to it. Usually that's larger municipalities, but not always. Have had more success in actually getting the groups together and getting them to collaborate, reducing barriers, reducing overlap and filling in gaps. So that's critical. I think another thing that about this governance model that I want to highlight, perhaps because it really sticks in my mind, is that the importance of the advisory committee is going to make sure that the action coalitions keep on track. Well, keep on track to what? And that is keep on track to the priorities that are outlined in this plan, but to measurables and goals that those action coalitions will set themselves. Because again, we can't tell them what to do other than that if they're coming here, it's for these priorities. But they will set their own goals, they will set their measurables, and the action, the coordinator and the advisory committee will then say, well, these are the goals that you set in order to achieve these outcomes that the community said were a priority. How are you doing on that? And the coordinator then will track that, monitor it, make sure they have work plans in place to get that done. So it's a little bit of a subtle, but I think meaningful change to how we were attempting to work it before. And the last thing that I would say here is I want to highlight for this council, the work that your then clerk, but now CAO Julie Middleton did on the previous, our first plan, because I think I've said many times, I think the main thing that we learned from this plan that we're ending now is how to do these plans. If you recall, unlike any other service that we do as a municipality, this was a completely brand new service level. There was nothing. When this started, there was nothing. It was literally a piece of legislation. Here, do this, municipalities. And I think we learned a lot from that first plan. We learned a lot of what works, what doesn't, why is it not working? And a lot of that first plan informed how we would decide what the new plan was going to be. And I think this slide really highlights a lot of that work.
All right, we are available for questions if there are any.
Okay, thanks very much, Sarah and Marcus. Questions from council? Councilor Pickard.
I want to say this is really well done. I appreciate what you're doing here. It makes all the sense to me. One of the questions, I had a couple of questions, is everybody talks about Mr. Matt here. I can't get it earlier. Everybody talks about the priority of affordability and economic stability. Could you say a little bit about that? I just don't know who out there deals with it. Like how do you deal with such a?
Great question. And I think, well, part of my answer to that one anyways is that I think we will have to figure some of that out, to be honest. It isn't necessarily obviously something that the county directly does. There are definitely some organizations that deal with the food security piece. I think there's actually a fair bit of work already happening in our communities with regards to food security. So we will probably be reaching out and connecting with those groups. The economic stability, it's a tricky one. I honestly, I'm not 100% sure what exactly it's going to look like. I think it's going to involve some figuring things out, trying to reach out, make connections and see what we can do in that realm. It's not, and I guess it kind of comes back to that whole like fact that the plan actually control that work, right? So we will be trying to use the FTE to make the connections to figure out sort of what's happening, what can happen, and what that's going to look like. So
Yeah,
it's
that's-
kind of to be determined.
That's a huge area, I just,
It is
I
huge.
wouldn't begin to where to start.
I think also it's a challenge in that, I think increasingly nowadays, the lines between different branches of government are blurred in residents' minds. And I think in particular, when it comes to this issue, what is the role of municipal government specifically in affordability? What do we do as a municipal government that specifically makes people's lives more or less affordable? And I think that speaks to Sarah's point, which is it's gonna be the community groups that engage in those action coalitions that tell us what they think they can do, or other partners that we're not aware of to address affordability, because, I mean, short of the bill that we send our residents for property taxes, what is specifically within the powers and responsibilities of municipal government to affect affordability?
Well, that was my next question, is the county gonna reduce their taxes so people can afford their homes?
We will reduce ours as rapidly as SWOX reduces theirs.
That's,
Or maybe more so. Okay, other questions? Councilor Ware.
It's more of a comment. First of all, this report was very well done. And I think there's gonna be a lot of frustration on both sides of the fence as the group that made all the recommendations, and then there's be the frustration from the people or the residents that need their questions answered, which we don't have any control over. But I think there's gonna be frustration on both sides of the fence, and I think something's gonna take time, but eventually, hopefully it'll work out, because there's a lot of things there. It's out of our control. And that's what, I guess the big thing, the education is, we have to let people know that it's out of our control. But these are suggestions, and hopefully you can take it with a grain of salt. Look at it and see how it goes. Other than that, job well done.
Yeah, and I think I would highlight again that, one of the key differences between this and other policies that council's adopted is this isn't a service delivery policy. It doesn't say what people are or aren't going to get. It's a plan to work out how people are gonna get things. And the reason that it's a plan is because other agencies are gonna do that work. So it's a feature, not a flaw, to the extent that it can be, of this plan, is that friction is gonna happen. Is that, people, groups, organizations are gonna come together and say, well, what, to Councilor Picker's comment, what do we do about affordability? Well, yes, we've identified that. So that's, when this group, this action coalition gets together, so what are you gonna do about that? That's when the work happens, not this plan. This plan just outlines how are we gonna address those things. So that's absolutely gonna happen.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Councilor Brady?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I enjoyed listening to your presentation. It was understandable. And I enjoyed it very much. Thank you. But I do have a question. The question is about the Heart Health Wellness Center. Can you tell me, is it really going to actually happen? Is it undergone? Has it started?
So first thing I'll say is this presentation is not about the Heart Hub, because we don't,
Yes,
Oxford County doesn't operate it. I can tell you what I do know about it. So Oxford County participates in the Heart Hub model. We don't operate the treatment portion, obviously. We do the transitional housing component. So when people are finished with their treatment part portion of the Heart Hub model, we will be supplying and operating the transitional housing component to move them out of the treatment into transitional housing. The intention within the Heart Hub model of that is that if somebody, for instance, is living on the street and dealing with addiction issues and they get treatment, and then when they're done their treatment, they go back to their tent in the park, that you have effectively done nothing there, right? So the idea is to move them on. So that's how Oxford County participates in it. Beyond that, I can just tell you what I know, as someone who's involved, but not directly involved in the Heart Hub model. They have begun intake of patients. In fact, later today, I'm going on a tour of the temporary facility that's up and running right now. So people are getting treatment now. It's not operating at full capacity yet, and it is, as I say, in a temporary location. I can't remember exactly what the timeline is, but it's certainly more than a year, I think, before the permanent location will be up and running. I could probably get back to you after today with a more fulsome answer on that. But I would also suggest that that as a council, if you wanted an update, to contact Woodstock Hospital or the Oxford Health team and ask them, what's the update on it. They are the responsible authority for it. And I know they have I think they have a website for it that I've looked at, and there are, there's an FAQ on there about, what is happening, how it's gonna function, what's happening, where are they at in the process, but I can tell you, short answer is, it is up and running in a temporary location, people are getting treatment today, and we'll be getting treatment tomorrow.
Wonderful, and thank you for the explanation.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Brooker.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. When this was first brought forward, I know there was a lot of pushback on the belonging part or the DEI. And a lot of people thought that it's gonna end up being, well, you have a quota to have this many people, this persuasion and then this many of this color and race. I understood that as being, or we were trying to do, is that we don't disqualify anybody other than based on their ability to fill that position. But some people were saying it's gonna be a quota. Do you still find some of that pushback coming through?
The first thing I would say is when the first Safe and Well Oxford plan was brought forward, there was, to my recollection, zero pushback on it, but that was previous term, right? It was when the DEI charter came, that was the last time that we were here, year-ish before. And there was considerable pushback then, from certain individuals. Broadly speaking, I would say there was not much pushback. There were certain individuals, certain councils, certain members of the public that pushed back very hard against it. But from my perspective, and take it for what you will, as one politician perspective, it was a relatively small slice of the Oxford population that pushed back on it. They pushed back strongly, they pushed back very vocally, but it was a very small portion. Again, all I can say about this plan is what I said before about the level of engagement that we had. It was very broad, very deep, and over a long period of time, and repeated to say, so here's where we are so far, what do you think? There's more engagement, we've revised it, here's where we are so far, what do you think? And that's what you have in front of you as a result. So anybody who felt positively or negatively about any aspects of the plan, those voices, they had an opportunity to share that, first of all, and they have been incorporated to the extent that they could be in an attempt to hear all voices in the county. So I'm very happy, I would say, I'm very happy with the plan that's on the position.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question about how we see this plan working moving forward. I think it's gonna be very challenging based on what you mentioned about having the coordinator talk to these different groups as they provide the service of what they can and can't do, of having to see the metrics of what is working, what not. Like, how are we gonna be able to say this plan is working in a year from now, because there's several different categories? Like, how is it gonna work? Because they're all a little bit different, and some may be easier to see than others.
Yeah, so within the plan itself, one of the things we try to do is include intended outcomes. So instead of necessarily identifying like one specific thing or one specific measure, we try to kind of I don't want to say like more broadly, but because it is going to be hard to measure. Like there are, I sit in on a subject matter expert group of people that help to run community safety wellbeing plans in a whole bunch of different municipalities. And the challenge of data and measuring success is like, I think we talk about it every single meeting that we have. Sometimes you can do things like financial. So for example, I do know a municipality that had a situation that came through their situation table with an individual, and they were at a really high risk. They put some certain measures in place, and they were able to, because it was a known individual, they were able to actually like monitor and track, and because of the support that they provided that person, they were able to actually very specifically measure a decreased number of like ambulance and police calls because of the support that person was now receiving. They quantified that and put that into a dollar amount and are able to use that as a measure. That's one example. And somewhat unique, but there are some things like that you can kind of do. I think in general, I'll be honest, it's going to likely be a long time before we actually see any drastic changes, especially if we're looking for the dollars and cents, for example. One of the things that I'm hoping to do, it's getting a little bit into sort of the weeds and the details, But I would like to bring together a group that is focused on data and metrics. We have obviously Southwestern Public Health. Our police services have tons of data, hospitals. And I'd like to kind of pull some of those individuals that exist within the organizations and try to do a much better job at collecting that information, sharing information so that we're not all doing surveys on the same things or similar topics, things like that, to be able to overall just do a better job of kind of monitoring things. But it is going to be very difficult for me to sit here, and I mean, you can see within the plan, there's multiple, but it's gonna be very difficult to sit here and be like, this changed, we're doing good things and it's working. So I think it's gonna be a matter of looking at a whole picture of a variety of pieces of data to be able to see if we're making progress. It's probably not the answer you're looking for, but it is, I don't think there is one single answer, so.
Anybody else? Just a couple of comments, maybe a quick question. First of all, it is the role of government at any level to be concerned about the safety and well-being for people. I mean, it's a foundational sort of role that the safety and well-being of the community, whether it be Southwest Oxford or Ontario, Canada, or whatever, is actually one of the responsibilities of the government. And so having this in front of us should actually kind of remind us that that's what they're in the business of. And I would simply suggest if that's not the case, you might want to ask the people of Ukraine or Venezuela or Syria or Sudan or something about what it's like when safety and well-being isn't a top priority. But the other thing I just comment to our council is if we don't like the plan, of course, we're free to leave and create our own plan. And I'm sure that staff and have moves the time to do this if you want. But the reality is that the problems aren't just social problems, they're community problems, and they require a bigger community vision. And quite frankly, it was never my intention that the county should take it over because get it off our plate, and I mean Julie's plate. It was these are bigger problems than we can solve on our own, and it would be much better if we tried to solve them as a bigger community. So I'm fully in support of it, but recognize that if council wants to go a different direction, they can move forward. The other one, and I was glad to see the change in people and belonging. The problem with the original or the earlier version of DEI is that people seem to kind of get the idea that DEI is orientation based only. That's as far as they ever get. And the DEI is way beyond that. It is about people, all people, and about all people belonging. But certain groups or certain individuals focus in on one issue, and that's the end of the discussion. They can't get beyond that. And I think that that's it's terribly unfortunate for what DEI was is and should be. But if you have to deal with the problem, you have to deal with the problem, and I see this as an intended solution. The one question I have, Sarah, would be around the advisory committee. You said it's going to be somebody from every municipality, and from our municipality, it's going to be who?
To be determined as well, so I think that'll be part of the process, is once the plan itself is endorsed, we will bring together, I think, the existing steering committee. I haven't talked with anybody about this is just my own my own sort of vision. And start to determine like what is that going to look like. I suspect like right now, we have Amy Humphreys from the city of Woodstock. It was previously Julie that sat at that, she was the co-staff lead. I do go to the quarterly clerks meetings that are held at the county and provide updates and bounce ideas off of them, get feedback and input from the clerks. So that was happening previously, but it will be a little bit more formalized by having a area municipal rep attend. I anticipate that I would talk to the clerks, possibly to the CAOs as well, to say, what do we think? Who is this going to be? Right now, there are 2 elected officials from the Oxford County Council that sit on that steering committee. Honestly, that will be up for debate too, like what is that going to look like? Is it an elected official? Is it a staff representative? We'll have to go through a process of figuring out what that looks like.
Okay. Good, look forward to the answer. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, and we'll look forward to the next step here, so. Thank you, thanks for your time.
Thanks for yours.
We need a motion to go to the court of revision. There's a what? I know, we're not doing the report. Receive the presentation, we'll do the report after court of revision, we're already late.
Okay.
So, court of revision. We need a motion to go into court of revision, moved by Pickard, seconded by Way. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. That minute show the Council Booker stepped out. And, Councilor Way, we're in court of revision, please take over.
Okay, this quarter revision for the Whaley Drain Branch A. Call the meeting to order at 9:39. First order of business is approval of the agenda, moved by Pickard. Seconded by Gillies. Any further discussion? All in favor, opposed, carried. Okay, confirmation of assessment. At this time, there has been no verbal or written appeals received by the clerk for the consideration of the quarter revision. And at this time, no members of the public have registered to speak at the quarter revision. So the next thing is there anyone from the public wishing to discuss the engineer's assessment schedule for this drain? Seeing none. We need a resolution to resolve the revision hereby confirms the assessment prepared by R.J. Burnside and Associates Limited and dated November 14th, 2025 regarding the Whaley Drain Branch A Section 78 report in accordance with the Drainage Act RSO 1990 Chapter D 17. Have a mover for that.
Moved. Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Someone like to move here? Yeah, you're right there. Okay. Moved by Pickard. Second by Gillies. Resolved the quarter revision held on January 6th, 26 now be adjourned at 9:41. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Okay, we're back in council. We'll move back to CO 05-2026. Julie, please. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mayor McRae. I don't have anything further to add to the staff report. As you'll see, there is a report in front of you which seeks council's approval of the updated state and law locksmith plan, which is attached to the report as appendix A. I guess I just will comment, thank you, Sarah, for your presentation. I do agree that this, the way that we've all come together to create one plan for the county and the county's implementing the plan has been incredible. I think it would have been very challenging for each of us to try to do this on our own, and it really did our community effort, so thank you for that. And with that, if there are any further questions, I will try to answer them.
Okay, any questions from council on this report? Councilor Pickard.
Right now, there's no financial commitment on our part, I understand. Is that likely to change? No.
This, I don't know. There has been talk in the past about municipalities contributing something on an annual basis. I know that there was some conversations among the steering committee previously about that, but nothing has formalized. There has been some conversations about potential grant opportunities as well, funded by your municipalities, but again, none of that has been formalized, and so far the county has been paying the costs of both the update of the Safe and Well Officer Plan and the funding program that was put in place last year.
Any other questions? Yeah, I would just comment then, I think the plan is really well done, and then someone who was at the summit last fall, last November. I thought there was, certainly at our table, there was a couple of issues raised, but for the most part, I think people actually agreed with this is the general direction we need to go with, but there wasn't the pushback, quite frankly, has more to do with people's feelings about certain issues than it did with the overall well-being community. And, so I think they did a very good job. I'm actually quite pleased with the concise nature of a strategic plan, if you like it that way, or a draft plan. If you can't put it on one page, you probably did it wrong. So, I think it's done very well, and I'm quite pleased with it, so. Anything further? So, the recommendation here is to see this information, approve the plan, and, continue North County as the lead. So, any discussion? Oh, Councilor Becker.
I just wanna say, I love it, it's great work.
Are you moving?
I'm moving it.
Okay, do you have a seconder? Seconded by Gillis. Result, Council Thunder says that Dr. Receiving Report CA 5/2026, Safe and Well Oxford Plan updates information further the council approved the updated Safe and Well plan and attached to this report as appendix A and for council. Continuing to endorse Oxford County as the lead for implementation of the Safe and Well plan on behalf of the township, including the addition of one full-time equivalent position as to the county, Oxford County's 2026 budget. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Endorsed. Thank you very much for all of your work over the. So,
Thank you very much.
we're gonna move on to, next appointment, and Julie. Are you going to introduce this, or just inviting?
No, I will speak to the report and then, Gibson Ingram on behalf of Grant Match is available online to answer any questions. So the purpose of this report, as outlined, is to look for council's authorization to enter into an agreement with Grant Match to assist the township in identifying and pursuing potential external funding opportunities for some of our upcoming capital projects. Gibson actually reached out to the township to talk to us about some of our upcoming funding needs and capital projects and explain the services that Grant Match provides to municipalities. I do understand that they're working with over 130 municipalities with Ontario, or within Ontario, or sorry, within Canada currently. And they do specialize in identifying different government funding opportunities and providing start to finish grant application support to municipalities. There's no retainer cost or ongoing fee to work with Grant Match. However, if grant funding is successful, then they do take a percentage of that funding, which is outlined within the report here. On appendix A, sorry. In the draft agreement, which is appendix B to the report. I also note that if there are some funding opportunities which do come up that township staff feel that we're comfortable completing on our own, we're not obligated to have Grant Match complete those applications for us. We can still continue to do those ones on our own. I see this as an opportunity really for staff to, a bit of a learning opportunity for staff as well, to work with Grant Match to learn about some of the funding opportunities that are out there. We don't always, we're not always made aware of them. They're not always, widely advertised, and Grant Match specializes in, identifying these opportunities and bringing it forward to municipalities. So if we were to enter into an agreement with Grant Match, they would review our capital forecasts, our upcoming capital projects, and then they would take a look at funding opportunities that may align with those projects and then work with us on completing those funding applications. And as I mentioned, Gibson is here online from Grant Match if there are any questions that council may have. So with that, I'll happy to answer any questions you may have.
Question from council. Councilor.
I'd like to ask what kind of success rate this company has. And secondly, what kind of program opportunities are out there? Can you give us some examples? So 2 questions there.
So Gibson, do you mind answering?
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here. I appreciate the question, and it's a really good one. So the first is our success rate. We have approximately twice the success rate as the industry average in securing grant funding. On average, we have a lot of analytical data to support this. 25%, 1 in 4 is the average that a municipality has on their own in securing government grant funding. Many applications and programs are highly competitive. They're offered on a first come, first served basis. And when the funding is depleted, the program closes. We double this percentage to approximately 50% likelihood of success. This is due to our specific skill set. We have a team of about 45 people who are dedicated funding specialists, meaning that they professionally write grants day in and day out. They understand the programs through and through. They understand how to build narrative, understand your community, and write the most compelling applications possible using technical resources and our deep understanding of these programs. The second part of your question was related to which programs are available. Correct. So typically we would, when we start an engagement, we do a complete analysis, as Julie mentioned, of your complete capital budget. I know you have a new municipal office in the works, as well as childcare and library facilities, parks, and these are really great projects for identifying grants. Two programs that we're looking at right now that have to be kind of hot and recent are the Ontario Trillium Fund capital grant stream that offers up to $200,000. That would be a really great fit for perhaps some of these park projects as well. If there are any sort of larger housing developments or affordable housing projects that may be planned, the Canadian Build Homes Initiative is now open with no set funding maximum. With a $13 billion program pot is now open. These are just two examples. We would identify quite a few more through our analysis. And a big part of our service is ongoing analysis. As many of you may be aware, programs open and close throughout the year at fluctuating intervals. And it's really important that you have a team on top of these opportunities, cross-referencing them with the projects we know you have planned, and approaching you to say, this program looks like an excellent fit for XYZ project. Would you like us to pursue this on your behalf? Another good thing to consider is that the recent federal budget released by Mark Carney and his team has dedicated a historical amount to public entities, to the public sector, over $50 billion in spending over the next couple of years. These are going to be manifested in programs like the Investing in Canadian Infrastructure program and housing enabling water systems and a plethora of programs that we've seen in the last few years that have been not only topped up, but new commitments have been made for municipal funding. So the timing is excellent. We expect a lot of these programs to begin in the new year and continue. And it's really important to have a plan in place to capture those.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Anybody else? I got a couple, go ahead, Councilor.
Just one comment that the Trillium grants, I know the former CEO spent a lot of time trying to get the application in and all the data that she needed. But it would probably have been better time spent with other municipal affairs and staffing problems and such forth. So I consider this probably a good idea.
Good. Any other questions or comments? So I got a couple for you. Councilor figured out the first one about the success rate. And I guess the other question is, who's your greatest competition in the business?
That's a great question. So competition is kind of interesting in our space. Generally, there are not very many other offerings, especially at our size, that are willing to take on the risk that we do to not charge any fees for ongoing support or for our work in general until we're successful. You do see the big four accounting firms, KPMG, Deloitte, for example, who have very small practices that kind of dabble in this sort of work, but generally they are charging on a project-based or hourly basis with no guarantee of success. There are a couple of smaller shops, if you will, who are doing this sort of work. They don't have the success rate or the staff that we do. And something that I haven't mentioned as well is that we actually use a technology first approach to these grant opportunities. What we do is we have a database of over 10,000 grant programs that dynamically tracks all opportunities based on your unique community profile. Our funding specialists are able to identify grants, build a funding strategy within this platform, as well as identify historical grant approval trends. We're able to look at neighboring communities and see what sort of projects they have had received funding for how much they got, the nature of their project, and which programs they used. We use this historical data to help shape your applications to identify and predict how much we think we can get. And this is kind of part of our secret sauce, if you will. So all this to say, it's very unique to come across a performance contingent model. We have the largest set of municipalities in Canada working with a grant provider like ourselves. And I would say that it's generally not a abundantly competitive space just due to the risk involved in the process.
Next one was, you talked about grants for administration buildings and new parks and that sort of stuff. Which are kind of the new build. I'm wondering about the availability of grants for basically maintenance, i.e. replacing playground equipment in a park, which Councillor Buchner alluded to, or rebuilding bridges and roads, which we also could use some help with. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, so rebuilding bridges and roads is a very common sort of project that we would be involved in. I think the second half of what you stated, operational or ongoing costs, generally are harder to secure funding for, but that does not mean that there aren't programs that help with that. Rebuilding parks and that sort of thing, and new playground sets and that sort of thing, the Ontario Trillium Fund would be a great example of that. But we are quite agnostic in the types of grant programs that we pursue. We will pursue any grant program that makes sense, and we are kind of at the peril of what is available. Generally, what we see is new builds or net new projects have more funding available, but that's not to say that there isn't a percentage of funding that goes towards ongoing operational maintenance and upgrades to existing facilities. For example, with hockey arenas, we see a lot of upgrades to central heating and ice pad cooling technologies and that sort of thing, moving away from ammonia to more environmentally stable and cost-effective solutions. There have been numerous, funding programs to help with that. Same thing with wastewater and water infrastructure. We see a lot of upgrades happening there to increase community ability to grow, essentially to build new homes and support that infrastructure. So it's not to say that they don't exist. Sometimes net new projects are more attractive and more exciting and someone gets to do a ribbon cutting, but there are lots of opportunities for ongoing or building on to what you already have.
So that kind of leads into the next question I had, was around the priorities and how to grant match set priorities for if we have a $50,000 bridge project or $1 million bridge project, whatever, or a $10 million project. How do you set priorities as to with 45 staff? I think you said you have 130 municipal customers. How do you set priorities and what you do first or what you do second or what you don't get to do at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. So how it works with grant match is that you'll actually be assigned a dedicated staff member who is managing your account. We call them a funding specialist, and they're responsible for your funding strategy. It is true that they may be responsible for multiple applications at a given time, but we have proven this process over 30 years and we understand what it takes to be successful. These are professional grant writers and they can handle multiple applications at once. It's very rare that, they are working on multiple applications in a given area that are all due on the same date. We're pretty strategic about how we distribute our staff. Our capacity is quite high, generally a lot higher than what would be possible within your own staff's ability. But we do a triage approach, right? We would look at all of the available opportunities and the projects and triage and determine which ones are the highest probability of success, lowest probability, largest opportunity for maximum amount of funds. And we shape our applications based on that sort of hierarchy. I won't promise the world. We are people and we, are at the peril of the grant program in terms of what projects are accepted and which ones are not. But it's our guarantee to put your best possible foot forward on any application we are involved in. And we work with you throughout the year to determine which are your highest priority areas, and we dedicate our time accordingly.
So the challenge for us also, though, is the idea that we're not the only people applying for this grant from this, funding stream, right? And, how does our priorities become, your priority? No, you know, how do we get matched, or get further up? I also would say that, provincially and federally, I'll get to the CAO on this in a minute. Our success rate has been somewhat, I don't know, between poor and dismal. So, I would say, if you look at the grants we've got that weren't given to everybody, we haven't got a lot. So, I think, this is one that, it certainly does interest me. Final question, and, that is, before any grant is submitted on behalf of the municipality, I think I read that, that we oversee it, or that we get to see the, final version of it.
Yeah, certainly. We would allow you to have a final look at final drafts and check in with you throughout the project to help shape the project and connect us with stakeholders of the project to make sure that we have all the information we need and that we can appeal to the program in the best possible light. But certainly you would have the final go ahead on submission and also the red light, green light as to which programs and projects we're involved in and which ones you may be doing internally.
Okay, because I think, and when I say we, I mean CAO and staff here, not council. We're not probably gonna read your grant applications, but,
Right.
any further questions? Seeing none, any comments from you, Julie?
No, I don't have any further comments unless there's any questions. As I mentioned, I do think that this would be a great opportunity for us to try. We haven't had the greatest success in the past. We have had success with fire protection grants, thanks to Shane's work on those the last couple of years. But there's been a few others that we have tried to apply for and we haven't been successful, and I think that this is worth trying at least for a couple of years.
Oh, okay. Any other questions? Councillor Gillis.
Just a comment, I think it's worth a try. I know the farm that I work at, you have somebody that does write grants for us, when they come available. It is hard. In agriculture, community grants come and go pretty fast, that we don't know about. And it's basically along the same principle. You know, hardly, you don't pay a retainer, but obviously with percentage, we're asked, when we're notified of a grant, what it's for, whether we're interested in having to apply or not, based on what we want to do. So, you know, I think this is a good idea to try and see what happens.
Good. Anything further on this? Anything else, Gibson, you wanted to contribute?
No, I'd just like to thank you all for your consideration. I think it's a fairly low risk proposition and our results will speak for themselves. And I hope that we can work together.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Now back to council, recommendation from staff is to proceed and council will do what? Councilor Gillis. Are you moving?
Moving the staff to proceed.
Okay, we have a seconder. Seconded by Bruckner. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Thanks very much. We're now down to staff reports. Julie, your CEO two, please.
So this report is just for information for council to provide you with an overview of this regional engagement session I attended about the Conservation Authority regional consolidation. I attended this session close to the end of December in London. My understanding is representatives from all the conservation authorities within the area were invited. I would guess there was maybe about 100 people at the session. The province provided a presentation to all the attendees about what their proposed consolidation looks like. They provided some reasons for why they were going to why they're proposing to do what they were doing, but most of the session consisted of attendees answering questions that they had to support them in their consolidation. So some of the things they made very clear were, you know, things are not going to stay the way they are. There are going to be consolidations. There was some indication that maybe it wouldn't go quite so far as down to 7. Maybe there would be a little bit more than that, somewhere in between. But really, they were looking for input from the people that were there on how to support them and how to implement these changes that they're proposing. It wasn't very well received by the people that were in attendance, I would say, a lot of concern, and, you know, frustration with the fact that it very much is a top-down approach, and people would have preferred to have been consulted before, the announcement of the consolidation plan, of course, so, that's very high level summary. I did go into some more detail in the report about what some of the comments and feedback were from the participants that were there. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer. There was really no follow-up from the session. As I mentioned, there was worksheets that people completed there, and all of the comments and feedback were submitted during the session.
Good. Comments from council? Is just for information? Councilor Ware.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I know that in the leading up last fall in the meetings that conservation authorities have had with the government at times, that they found that a lot of times the meetings are cut very short. It's for question and answering periods, like they do a lot of talking, what, you know, everybody how well they're doing and why they're doing it, and some time for question and answers. Lots of times that time frame is very short, and they felt that they weren't given their opportunity to say as much as that they would like, because they just said, well, this is the meeting, well, it's going to be over, and they just move on. So did you find that they answered the questions and there was ample of time for people to make comments, or did they seem to kind of, at a certain point, take it to an end?
Not really, actually. The session overall was about 2.5 hours. The first hour of it was a presentation from the province, and representative, the chief conservation executive. And then the rest of the session was participants working amongst their groups, amongst their tables, to answer some of the questions that they were assigned. Every table had an opportunity to stand up and speak to what the comments from the group were. All of the comments were written down as individual tables and submitted. There wasn't really too much of a question and answer period, but everybody was given a chance to speak on behalf of their table and the comments that were made. And people were encouraged to complete the feedback forms online as well through ERO.
Any other questions, comments? So when we get to the number of correspondence today, on the consent agenda, there seems to be kind of a universal, we're not really sure whether we like this idea or not. And, but a willingness, and a lot of them, I would argue, are somewhat reform, a willingness to say, there's things that we could do better. And when you hear that, you sort of say, but then why didn't that? Not being critical of conservation authorities, I'm just saying, if they agree that maybe more universal rules and regulations may be helpful. And you know, standards or whatever across the board may be helpful. Makes you wonder. I mean, I know everybody's busy, nobody's got time to do this stuff. So I see potential there for the problems to standardize. But anyway, that would be my comment on it, so. As I say, this is just for information. Anything else? Councilor Booker.
Well, I just think it boils down to the fact that with the push for more homes, more faster. A lot of them are starting to encroach on the floodplain mapping. And pushing to get closer and closer to and farther into the floodplain mapping areas. And I think it feels like it's the province wanting more land, and the conservation authorities hold a large amount of land in trust and everything else. And they're just looking for a way to find more land to build and faster. So if we can get rid of that regulatory level, then we can get things done what we want. And I think that's what galling most of the conservation area authorities.
So
Yeah, I'll just add at the session, some of the participant feedback along these same topics were that, why didn't you talk to us first? Why didn't you have the engagement with us first about the concerns and some of the changes and standardization that you wanted to see? Mapping was brought up, mapping and the quality of mapping from within different areas varies across the province. Some of it's quite out of date, some of it's more recent. So these were some of the feedback that came from participants was, why didn't you talk to us first? Instead of making a decision about this is the way we're gonna do things, have this engagement with us and let us provide some recommendations on how we can consolidate, standardize and streamline activities. And it was suggested even that, some of the conservation authorities may agree that there are some opportunities to consolidate and present those opportunities themselves if they were given that opportunity first.
One of the reasons why, mapping is inconsistent is because the province has provided funding for particularly smaller, CAs to actually do that, not cost money to do all that. And, you create a problem, you can actually then create a solution to solve that problem. So, anything further on this report? Thanks very much for going and for providing the report. We have a motion and received the information. Moved by Pickard, second by Gersten. Result of Council Township Secretary to see report CAO 2026 for information, regional engagement session, conservation authority, regional council. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. And what road access, Julie, please?
Okay, so thank you. This is a follow-up report. We talked about this previously, and this is the purpose of this report is to provide council with the information regarding the township obligations related to the wet road section of Pickering Line, which is located within our regulated floodplain. Council previously asked whether or not we do have any legal obligations to raise this road and address the wet road access in this area. Have looked into this, and I note in the report that there are sections of wet road throughout the entire province of Ontario. The way we are handling it now through our maintenance standards is appropriate, and there's no reason why we can't continue to do that. However, I do note in the report, we have met with UTRCA staff. There is a process, should we wish to go ahead with raising the road, we would need to get a permit from Upper Thames, we would need to have the design engineered. We have not looked into detailed costs of what that would be to the township. It's not currently included in 2026 budget, but if this is something that council would like us to look into, then we require that direction and we can get some more information in terms of process and anticipated costs.
Any questions or comments on this one? Seeing none, we're within the legal limits. Are we in any way subject to liability for a wet road? Other than we have to close the road. If someone lives on that road, what's the liability issue for us? I live on that road, I have a heart attack, but you close the road, therefore I can't get in.
I didn't look into that specifically and I didn't get a legal opinion. I just did some research online.
Okay.
So if you would like me to get a more detailed opinion on that, I can. I would want to reach out to a lawyer to get it.
So to a certain extent, to me, it's no different than in the winter, if you close the road or you pull the snowplows off the road. Because of danger to both people and to the operators. But I'm not a lawyer and you can't fix winter, you can't fix the road. Right? And that's why I'm a little bit.
Yeah, and throughout the province as well, I mean, people live on roads that are not maintained year round, for even snow removal. People live on roads that don't pass snow removal during the winter within the province. I think it would be hard to say that we have no liability if there were an issue. I think the township always has some liability. But we're not, from what I've found, the way we are responding to this section of wet road meets our current obligations. If something were to happen, could we potentially be liable? Probably.
Any other questions from council on this? Council Brookner?
Just one for Adam. Is the White Road just from Crouch northward to the said property, or is it all the way up to the next crossroad?
It's both sides of the Reynolds are low. According to we have no topographical surveys done, but according to Upper Thames, both sides of the Reynolds are low. Below that 30, 70. Potentially the north or south of the Reynolds would be the shortest route to get the elevation change, but we wouldn't know that until we have a detailed engineer. So.
Any other questions? This report is just for information. That's council wants to provide direction. Seeing none, do we have a mover to receive this information? Moved by Way, seconded by Gerson, result council township solicitor officer receiving report CEO 03/2026 for information, Mud Road access, River Mine as information. Any discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, that's carried. Law enforcement report. Denny.
Through the mayor council, I don't have anything to add to this report at this time. I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, any questions on this report? Doesn't look like a bad year, so kind of average. Councilor Bridger.
Well, the only question is, I always wonder about these clean yard. Do they ever get resolved?
Oh,
I don't wanna mention any small villages, but it seems like when I drive through, the mess is almost there. Do they ever get resolved?
Let's get the mayor here, council. The bylaw for council takes like a proactive approach, which has to work with individuals without going down to harsh on enforcement. But if there's specific concerns, we can speak about them after the meeting.
Be fair to say that some of them get resolved and then reoccur.
Yeah.
I'm gonna attest to that.
Some people just, their standards are different than others, so. So, any other questions in this report? Thanks for the update. The motion and receives information. Moved by Brookner, seconded by Frederick, resolved the council of township assessors office receive report CL 2026. Law enforcement activity report fourth quarter 2025 as information. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Next one, do you want to take a 5-minute break before we start into strategic planning? To take a while. Looking forward. CAO 2026 strategic planning session, and Julie, take it away, please.
Okay, so the purpose of the report on the agenda is really to support the strategic planning session for today. I did present the third quarter strategic plan update at the first meeting in December, and at that meeting, I included Appendix A and Appendix B, which included an update of our action tracking to date as of 2025. So these documents have just been included for reference for today's session. Outlined within the report, there's a few questions here. Going into the last year of this plan, as well as the last term of this council. I'm hoping that we'll have some time for all members of council today to provide some comments on the questions that are outlined within the staff report. So those questions are whether there are any community concerns emerging that require more attention in 2026. Of all of our ongoing initiatives, which ones should be the highest priority for completion or significant advancement in 2026? What foundational work should be completed in 2026 to position the next council for success, and what outcomes does council hope to be able to point to at the end of this term? So, with that, I will hand it over to you to lead today's session.
Okay, so before we get into answering your questions, this is your last year of council, potentially permanently or before you get reelected. So this is your last kick at the cat as far as sort of setting a year-long or almost year-long agenda and setting priorities that you want staff to accomplish. So I guess I'm wondering if anybody has any priorities or things that they think are high on their list. I think that's really what staff is looking for, and things that kind of a must do. So I thought, well, rather than ask you, I'll start with a few of my own. And then I thought, I said to Julia, I hope that will stimulate some conversation. So the first one I have is, being that this is an election year. What are we gonna do about an election coming up in, I think it's October 26th? Which happens to be my wedding anniversary. So, what a great gift. Anyways, everybody has their own positions as to what they may or may not be thinking of doing. But as one who's definitely not coming back, it's my gift to my wife, actually. She doesn't know it yet. I mean, she knows I'm not coming back, she just doesn't know that that's all she's getting for her.
You might change your mind.
She might change my mind, but anyways. I see as part of my role then is to look at the community and say, you know, who is there out there that might want be interested in filling the role and approaching you know, people to look at that. And I say that because we as council, we have the experience. We know what the job's like. We know we can answer honestly the questions around how much time does it take, what's this, you know, what do you like, what don't you like, what are the challenges, what are the difficulties, and be able to provide encouragement or whatever for whoever's interested in running. So I guess to me, knowing that there may be several other councillors who are thinking of not running, encouraging them to do the same. But so that's at an individual council level. But as a whole council, I'm wondering, I think if you remember last election, we did not have a huge number of people show up wanting to run for positions. So I'm wondering, despite the fact that I thought staff did a darn lot of work trying to get the word out of what was happening. So looking for how do we go from here? Or any thoughts from council on the election coming up this fall? Is it a priority for anybody else other than me? Because I really do think you get the government you deserve, and if you don't put some effort into getting good government, you're not gonna get it. So
I had it down as a note, Mr. Mayor. In the report itself, I made a little asterisk that I think my comment was, I don't have it up, but I remember I wrote down, what will the 2027 council look like? I know I had expressed some concern that we're gonna have to go up and maybe shake the bushes a little bit and get some people to move on from these positions. People have had it good. But everything eventually there's a, it's like we're changing the guard. So I'm with you. I think I think every individual that's not running, maybe could take some time and put some thought into talking, encouraging whatever has to be done to candidates, potential candidates. You know, I've talked to a couple, not just one area, I've actually talked to a couple that I know are interested, for sure. I worry about who our mayor will be. We've had
been bragging about that for the last 6 years.
Yeah, I know, but they might be more of a delivery. That's a leadership is what it's all about. And I don't know who's in council here, I don't know who's staying, who's leaving, but I hope there's somebody here who'll step up, you know, to take the leadership role. I think that's really important to go into this without have a mayor that doesn't have council experience. I think could be a real hot potato. Puts a lot of pressure on Jimmy. So I'm with you on that one.
Okay, other comments on the upcoming election, Councillor Gillis?
I think as before, I think we need to make aware, but also engage the public of what their roles and responsibilities are. I think the biggest concerns that I get sometimes are what are we actually in charge of or not, despite us trying to tell people that it seems to get lost in the weeds sometimes of what our actual role is, like, you know, municipal versus your county versus other priorities. I think that kind of gets lost to educate what our roles actually are and the differences between the councillors and say the mayor's position of what is for them to be assigned to tasks that are part of their job as members of council. I think a lot of people think we just go to meetings and get a check and it's all hunky-dory, but there's times that are way busier than others, and there's obviously things that come up that are I'll use the word exciting, more exciting at times than other things. So I think it's educating that it's not all one thing that you're going to deal with. It's a vast variation of things at different times that people need to be prepared of, and you need somebody that can adapt and work with everyone in a collaborative manner. Just trying to educate what's going on, what they need to be aware of to be able to do this position.
So suggestions around, I couldn't agree more, suggestion around how do we help educate public? Do a job they've never thought of, nor do they actually think they want, because and the two that I get the most often is they don't want to put up with all the crap from all the neighbors or all the other people in the township, or they just don't have time. Which I always find interesting because apparently the rest of us have nothing to do and people do have the time. And nobody has the time. Like every one of us could fill every day with something else. It didn't have to be here. So, but I wonder around education, and I know Denny's taking mental notes if he's not taking physical notes around because I see this as a role partly of the clerk, but I'll let the CEO tell him that. So how do you educate people on what's the commitment? And quite frankly, my experience has been the unpleasant sort of conversations you've had really aren't all that bad. Like, some people don't like me, guys. I got people like that at home. The,
Sorry.
yeah, anyways, I think it's one of those things that, how do we help the public understand that it's not all bad? And quite frankly, I think that being online is helpful, that people realize, that it isn't a terribly unpleasant job for the most part. Counselor Becker.
My suggestion would be to have a couple of information sessions. I don't know if anybody would come or not. But I'd like to see one in the north, one in the south, where we just half an hour. Where mayor and a couple of councilors might attend, and then just see if people will come out that have an interest. And we can talk about what it's like and what they answer questions. That was one of the things that was thinking about it. And what council would want, or if the clerk would want to organize something like that for next summer. I would be interested in attending.
I would certainly be willing to, so Danny, your comments were gonna be?
Through the mayor to council, if I can just comment on the whole election upcoming, county clerks work as a team to put the election together, and monthly meetings are beginning this month. So my hope is to have more information out and initiatives underway. Coming up in March, which we haven't been advertised yet, but it'll be coming shortly, March 26th. There's a candidate information session being scheduled through, it was Fred Dean, but Fred is now retired. And it'll be Nigel Bellchamber that's hosting that session. So that's open to anybody that's interested in running as a candidate.
And where will it be hosted?
I believe it might be online, I don't.
Oh, okay.
It might be like a dual. Hybrid. Yeah, I believe it's hybrid, but
Hybrid as in here and in Toronto, or here in Woodstock, or I mean online and in Woodstock?
I believe online and then Woodstock, but I'll get more information
Okay.
regarding details for that as well. Additionally, like, information is starting to come out from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. It was included in the the January Village Voice. So AMO is offering sessions here, those interested in seeking re-election, as well as candidates who are potentially new and interested in running in the upcoming election. So that information has been provided in Village Voice. I believe it was also shared on our social media channels. So engagement is underway. We'll definitely be picking it up more shortly here, just as we are in now. So initiatives are underway, but I'm happy to organize specific sessions for Oxford. And the sales of councilors are interested in sessions of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to see something a little more intimate to Southwest Oxford. That's just my opinion, with people we would think would be good candidates that we could, and get to know. It's like volunteerism, it's part and parcel of the same conversation. It seems like we gotta encourage. And sometimes this might involve a little arm twisting. But I'd like to see it a little more intimate just in our area. But this is my opinion.
I would certainly be more than happy to participate, because I would like to see people feel comfortable enough there. What is it really like in any position, like not just mayor or just for council, I mean, I think, because it's broader than that. If you sit on council, you also sit on committees, those kind of things that people should be aware. What are the expectations, or how much or how little is involved? So any other comments? Councillor Wayne and Councillor Thurston.
I think, and council in 2027 is gonna. A lot of new faces, there's gonna be a lot of. Maybe extra workload for the staff here at the township. You look at our history, we've had a lot of acclamations when it comes election time. We had all the discussion about the Mount Elgin subdivision and people saying that they had no representation, and I think the comment was made more than once, but there is an upcoming election in 2022. I thought there would have been some people from the subdivision put their name in, and there wasn't. which, you know, they were saying they didn't have proper or enough representation at the table here in the township, and I thought, well, you had an opportunity and none of them jumped on the bandwagon, so that was disappointing in a way. Yeah, I've talked to a couple of people, mentioned it to them, and I have a third one in mind I'm gonna ask, but yeah, see what they say.
Any other thoughts on the election and things we could or should do? I particularly like the idea of an open house or you know, kind of an information meeting and where no commitment, just come out and we'll be more than happy to talk about what it's like, and I think kind of a question and answer sort of session or whatever. And oh, sorry, Councilor Thurston is going to be, and also interested in seeing what staff putting together for the general public. So Councilor Thurston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to see us, well, you mentioned it, didn't you? I think that, what's up Mount Elgin, Beachville, Brownsville, Sweeper?
You get the message, huh?
Yes, I find a lot of people do pay attention to, well, mostly what's up Mount Elgin.
Yeah, Folders
Yes.
has a Facebook page,
Yeah, they do.
so you know, it's not hard.
Okay.
It's not hard. We'll get it all coming.
Say something special about the upcoming election, say something special about the area that they're living in, just keep pounding it, and then the message will get home.
So on a more delicate subject on this, I've been told numerous times in the past that the reason people don't run is you can't beat an incumbent, which that's right. You don't have to look far and you can beat an incumbent. It's not hard. But having said that and acknowledging that some people feel that way, and that's why I've been pretty clear that I'm not running again, and not because I don't like the job or would be happy to do it again. I think it's time to get out of the way and let somebody else do it. So, and that's not gonna happen. People aren't gonna run, I don't think, if or aren't gonna even be interested if they think, oh, I've got to run against A, B, or C, and they're too far. So, as I say, on a more delicate basis, it's the way of saying, and would you please indicate whether you're gonna run or not, so that people in your area, and I don't just mean by going out and talking to people, I mean by publicly saying, you're gonna run or not sometime in the next couple of months, so that people can say, oh, well, if Pickard were out of the way, I'd have a chance, but as long as he's there, nobody's gonna vote for anybody but Pickard, right? I mean, nobody in their right mind is gonna vote for anybody but Pickard. So, I do think that in fairness to people who might be interested, but are realizing or feel like they don't stand a ghost of a chance. People being honest about what your intentions are. If you're running, great, I'm thrilled, I really am. Go ahead, Councilor Pickard, please do. But if you're not, then I think we should also probably advertise that. And I don't mean take out an ad, but make it pretty public that you're not seeking re-election. If you're undecided, leave your name in, because we'd love to have you back. Okay. At least whoever's here is gonna love to have you back. Quite frankly, I'd be happy to have all of you back, even if I weren't here, so. Anything further on that? And just for a thought, I think, as I say, I do think that some people will not put their name forward if they think they're, and I'll be honest with you, the first time I ran was when Peg Coffin ran for mayor. And I thought, Peg's good, I didn't have a chance, or at least I didn't think I had a ghost of a chance. First of all, it worked out perfectly timing wise at home. This was the year I could run. And Peg said to me, she was leaving, so I should think about it. And so, I mean, she was moving up and thought I should think about it. That kind of encouragement was all I needed. There was gonna be a spot that potentially I could get, and for better or worse, I did. So anyways, anything further on the election? Anything further staff wants?
That's great.
Is that? Are you taking that as direction that maybe set up a, public information meeting? Two of them in north or south? Go ahead.
Through the mayor, if I can comment on that, my recommendation for that would be to set these meetings up prior to that March 26th candidate information session being posted. So that you can have these conversations ahead of that. You can let people know that that information session is happening as well, so that people are prepared for that. So we will look to have these sessions in place and happening before. Ideally by the end of February, beginning of March.
So. Direction to staff on this, I mean, it's gonna cost a few dollars because you gotta rent a hall. But it's just, so,
February, March. Did you say?
End of February, beginning of March for these information sessions, because the general information session. That's a collaborative approach by all municipalities in the county is happening March 26th. So you can start having these discussions with the interested candidates, and then at these sessions, advise them that there's a general session happening at the end of March.
What if it would make more sense to see what kind of attendance we get March 26th? See how much interest we have. And if it looks bleak, then we should work on it over.
what day is nomination days, what day the nominations open?
First.
Yeah, 30 May.
Oh, okay, so you have to do it, okay.
Well, no, we don't, they open May, they close August.
19th.
Oh,
So I was asking, or kind of thinking the same question about, would you have the general one first and then a site specific second? If I were having the general one, or saying having the SWATs one first, I'd be looking for the week before. Make it as long as possible, like March 19th, for example, I don't know what day that is. But rather than, and then say, next week, if if you're still interested, next week is this. But problem with general is that sometimes they get too far into the weeds. For people to get the real questions, the real answers, they want the real questions. And people might be a little uncomfortable putting their hand up to ask a question when they think it might be a question that everybody else doesn't really know. So, I don't know, I'm just thinking about it.
If I can add that, I do think it's important that you have those conversations ahead of time of those general sessions, so that. If it's more intimate, people can ask those questions, they may not be as afraid at the general information session. Would be the way that I would look at that, but that actually be my opinion.
So, does that week previous to the 26th? The week before that would be March break week. I don't have the calendar, but I'm guessing that would be March break week, the second week in March. It's the third week?
I think March break starts the 15th or 16th, is it not?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Which is the third week.
Okay, I was thinking it was the week before that.
It's
Hey,
a week later this year.
okay. Get this general agreement to, look at it, we leave it with staff to come back with the recommendation. Yeah. Okay, anything further on elections? I don't wanna keep this going all day, but, okay. Second one that I had down, in things to clean up before I, leave office, so that we're not leaving, too many, terrible things for the next, council. We have a few stale dated, building permits. And, we're not gonna get them all cleaned up this year. I get that. I know Daniel's good. In fact, I know he's great. But, I'm doubtful that he's gonna get them all done. But if he does, I will actually fly on the top. I know he can make them. I'll buy one if you want to be able to eat every. Okay. Thinking, for staff, have a sense of what is the expectation of council, if there's an expectation to kind of clean it up. I know that, Julie and I in our conversation earlier, had talked about, they were working on it, they have a bit of a plan. But I'm just wondering from council, if you have a sense of a goal or objective that you would like to see, achieved. And I'll give you an example, would a reasonable goal be all open applications that are 5 years or younger? Or all open applications that are 5 to 10 years old, or all open applications, 10 years or younger, or 20 years or whatever. I think it needs to be reasonable. And, but I also think that we need to put some effort. And we probably need some guidance, expertise, whatever, from staff to say, what is a reasonable goal? And then, not check on staff, but we have an expectation that we'll actually get there. And my understanding is building might be a little bit slower right now. And if it is, maybe they've got some time to clean up a few of these. I think some of the ancient ones probably need to be done, but I'd be happy if we got 5 years or even 10 years all cleaned up. So I don't know, what's thoughts of council, and then we'll get some guidance from staff. Councilor Bicker.
My thought is, that we probably should be looking at the ones where we're holding money. I don't know how, I understand it's a substantial amount of money that we have on deposit. Should we be looking at those first?
I would argue, should we be looking at the ones that we think we have the biggest liability risk? I don't care about the money, I care about what's gonna happen if we, if something goes sideways on us. So that would be like two kind of different areas, right? I would strictly, did we give occupancy, or is somebody occupying something that we didn't give occupancy for? And, oh, the hand railing isn't done, or, yeah, they didn't get the final electrical inspection or whatever, right? Like, those are the ones that worry me. Not arguing, just sort of. Any other thoughts on that?
I'll ask another question.
Go ahead.
It's about capacity, because Daniel's got two jobs. At some point, we're gonna have to get that resolved.
That is being resolved, isn't it?
So we have hired a new building inspector plans examiner. They're starting on January 26th. And then we do have now dedicated building planning, public works admin support. So Daniel and Ella have started working on this. We have, kind of a procedure developed that they're working from, and they've started dedicating time to this on a weekly basis. I would say, I know that this is a priority for council, it's a priority for staff as well. So I think if we have, we can have a couple of months to work through what we've started, I think we'll have a better idea of how we are capacity wise and what a reasonable goal would be to achieve. In terms of number of permits or years, I would agree, I think probably starting with the earliest ones and working backwards. Probably, which is kind of what Daniel and Ella have talked about, I think that's likely the best approach. Some of them will be relatively quick and easy to close since they'll be fresh in Daniel's mind from inspections and things like that.
Other thoughts? Councilor Gilbert, please.
I'm not one to tell staff what to do, and I think they should come up with their own plan. I think that they're well aware that this is a priority for council, and we want to be updated on this, that we want to tackle this plan, and I'm happy to, hear a report back from them on a regular basis of how this is going. And that's good enough for me. I think that we're just well aware, just making everybody well aware, this is a thing we want to tackle. How staff want to manage it, that's up to them. It's just, we want to be engaged that we know this is moving forward.
So, just asking, you'd be satisfied with the report from the CAO or CDO saying, this is a plan and this is where we expect to get?
Yes.
Rather than us saying,
Yes.
okay. Any other comments? For me, this is one of those, I hate having little jobs not quite done, they're 90% done. And that last little 10%, I wander off and do something else and I never get back to it. And so, and those just drive me nuts. And that's one of the reasons why I want to see this kind of cleaned up, but. Anything further on the still permits? Councilor Webb.
Just getting, I think we need to make a good effort to try to clean these permits up. It comes to my mind. We give someone permission to build a house, when the house was completed, they were supposed to tear an old one down. It's still there, and I get asked that. Like, that's kind of in the building department. You know, they've been in this other house for a couple of years, and that one's being rented out, so. Yes.
So there's one in particular, we can maybe talk not in public session,
Yeah.
but it's become a zoning enforcement issue.
Okay. Well, leave it at that.
Okay. Anything further on still dating? Okay, the next one I had was the admin building, and some sense of, where are we going, what are the next steps, what is the roadmap sort of thing? And where are any, off ramps if in fact we need one? Cause I think that's, something that, it's a significant amount of money and anybody that's not a little bit worried about it isn't thinking. So, go ahead, you want to comment?
Do you want me to provide a brief update on where we're at with this?
As in a report at the next meeting, is that what you're saying, or right now? Right now, go ahead.
Right now, so I will have a report at the next meeting. We did issue a pre-qualification request for proposals for construction management services. So this is to hire a firm that will be managing this project for us. They will be acting as our construction manager on the project. We received 28 pre-qualification proposals, which is significantly more than I thought that we would receive. And I've been working through those proposals to narrow them down to like 6 or 7 that would move on to the next step. So I am planning to provide a report to council at our next meeting on what those 6 or 7 would be. The next step is we would send a request for proposal for like detailed financial proposal for providing services for phase 1, which would include complete detailed design and would provide us with construction ready drawings and a complete cost estimate of what the building is gonna cost. So from that, I hope to have that in February back to council, what that's gonna cost, and then the second part of that proposal is the fee for providing construction management services throughout construction. Okay, so this firm will be working with us right from complete detailed design to construction ready, and then they would be managing the project throughout construction as well. So I hope to have those numbers to council early March. What the cost, what we're looking at in terms of completing phase 1 to be construction ready. And then from there, we will know how much it's gonna cost to build. We'll have to present a financing plan to council to then proceed with phase 2, which should be construction. At the very earliest, at this point, if council approves phase 1 and we move on to construction with the financing plan approved for phase 2, we would not be starting construction until probably September or October of 2026. We would not be looking at completion until probably December of 2027. So we're still here for at least another 2 years.
Okay, so, any direction, or can the whole project, that's another direction, from council to staff? You heard Julie's plan, any thoughts, comments? No objection, okay, Councilor Justin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a concern. In the beginning, when we heard about, or when I heard about the new build, all the times that we've talked about it, I was all for it. I wanted to get back over the new basement. But now, with the way things are in the world, I'm very unsure if this is the time for us to proceed with this. Or as you were talking to me, I was wondering at what point could we just put things on hold, just to see what's going on? That's just my opinion. But I know that eventually it will get built, but is this really the time to do?
Any other comments? Councilor Booker.
Yeah, I know it seems like a huge burden if it's gonna be pushed on to the next council. But in the same vote, this building is getting older, doesn't have the capacity for staff. More people want more things done by council, so therefore it's gonna be more, possibly more staff as well. And it's never gonna get any cheaper. It's gonna be more and more expensive every time you keep pushing it off. Because that's unless the economy tanks and the inflation goes to a negative, it's not gonna get cheaper.
Councilor Wood, you're next.
Yes, Mayor. I'm leaning toward, we need to continue with this sooner than later. I do respect Councilor Thurston's questions, and I did think about that, like, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now, like it's, man, if you read the news or sit and watch TV, it makes you really think about what's gonna happen in the future. But when I think of what Councilor Bugner just said, this building's getting older, if we delay it, it's just gonna keep it'll cost more money. We did kind of earmark a number that we would budget. And I think we need to proceed and go forward, and I would like to see it started in 2026 for sure. So.
Any other comments? Councilor Gill.
Yeah, I'm not against moving forward with a new building. I think I want us all to be cautious of the cost. I think that's the biggest concern that the taxpayers have mentioned to me is obviously the cost. You know, it's a large financial commitment. Obviously we want it to be a building that's gonna last for a long time. So obviously we want to do it right, but we do have to be, you know, what do we really need? What do we not need? And how do we make this work? But I do agree with CEO the first step, so.
Councilor Becker, go ahead.
I'd like to know the financial commitment. To me, it's more of a financial decision. But we need it, no question, but financially, are we ready for it? How will the financial, what will it cost us every year in the future? Is it 10%? A 10% increase in taxes? 12%? I don't, you know, at this point, I don't know. I know so well. People ready for.
Did you want to comment?
I was just gonna say, so in order to get us to a point, we've had a few different estimates thrown out. But we do need to go through that phase one, that detailed design phase, before we have a firm number of this is how much it's going to cost. And then we can put what that financial plan proposal would look like. But the cost to get through phase one is still gonna be a few $100,000, which we have included in the budget. And that's what I'll be bringing forward, hopefully by early March. So we'll know this is how much it's gonna cost to get us there. Once we complete that phase one detailed design, we'll have a total cost of construction, and then we'll present a financial plan, funding proposal to council for approval before we proceed with construction.
Any other thoughts? So, like Councilor Durston, I'm worried about it. But I don't think I've ever done anything, major personally or whatever, that I didn't at some point, later worrying about. I think that's, part of making big decisions is sort of, you know, having that kind of insecure feeling that, is this really the right thing to do? And, on the other hand, I could kick myself for not doing this 10 years ago. I think the greatest mistake this council has made was not having done this 10 years earlier for a lot less money. And not blaming council and not suggesting we made a huge mistake, but in retrospect. Oh, God, I wish we'd done this a long time ago. So, having said that, if it wasn't yesterday, then maybe it better be today. And I'm firmly in that we're gonna move forward, whether it's today or tomorrow. And therefore, let's get on with it to a certain extent and, not a, don't worry about anything else, just get it done. But if you're gonna do it, and I think that's why I'm, as I said to Julie earlier about, we need a roadmap that we see that we're following. So that at any point council can say, okay, this is where we are, and this is the next big decision or point. And so, in my mind, kind of a written out roadmap, that says this is the way we're going. Or what staff is recommending we're going, and then let council decide whether they're prepared to take the next, go the next kilometer or whatever. So, go ahead.
Can I just make one other comment? I think council's aware, but we are out of space here. We are making sort of temporary changes here to make more appropriate working space for staff, including our shared staff, so we don't have people working in council chamber, which is also what we use as our only meeting room in the office. Shane is moving to look out of the Beachville Fire Hall, which, I mean, for us as a team is really not ideal. It would be best for us all to be in one space, but that's allowing us to move offices around downstairs to create a couple of temporary workspaces for when our shared staff are here. We're removing one workspace upstairs to create two, but again, these are quite small spaces. And we have staff working in, the former storage closet and the walk-through space, it really isn't ideal working spaces. We are really out of space, and I think, I don't foresee significant increases in staff in the near future, but we are seeing more demands coming from township halls and parks. I do think that this is likely the next area where we're gonna need some additional dedicated staff. So I just really want to emphasize, we're using all the space that we have here, I think, as best as we can, but we really are running out of space, and I think it's important to give staff appropriate working space and where we can all be, together as a team, and even having some staff in the basement and some staff upstairs. It really is not an ideal working arrangement for us.
Good. Any other questions or comments on that one? Councillor, sorry.
One of the things we've never talked about, we should be absolutely sure of. But are we still going to include the child care? Because if we want to cut costs, we cut our needs.
Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In response to that, my feeling is that there's such a need in the community for childcare. And it's been evidenced by some of even the staff explaining to the Engage and Inform Committee how soon they had to look for having their child in a childcare. I just think it's something very important, but you bringing it up makes me think, yeah.
We want to be sure, because we're paying which this portion of the building to be for childcare and library, which is actually, it's gonna cost us money to do that. This childcare really is not gonna pay us anything as far as our costs. We're doing this at a loss. And I'm all for it, but I have to tell myself, and I have to share that council, this is the childcare aspect of this proposal is a loss. And the taxpayers are gonna cover that loss. So as long as we're happy with that, I'm happy with that. Because I just thought it through and said, okay, I'll never use childcare. I don't know.
Other comments on childcare then? Councillor Thurston.
Would there be any way for this building to qualify if changes were made for childcare?
But we don't have room for staff now, so I'm not sure. My comment on childcare is, if we're not putting in childcare, then I have no interest in building a new building because I can put an addition on this building big enough to, get the next half dozen staff there. Yes, we're stretching out both ends, and yes, you're gonna lose part of your parking, not too bad, you're gonna have to walk from over in Adams Yard. Too bad, suck it up. I think it's a case of, because the most cost effective, if we're not gonna do that, the most cost effective would be. Yeah, you're gonna be on 2 floors. Or we put a 3rd floor on.
You already know we can't go up structurally.
You can always do it. It's just at what cost.
Yes.
So, and that's sort of, at some point, it's time to get rid of the building and do the right thing, in my mind. If we're gonna make a change, I would feel sick about adding to this building, quite honestly, I really would. But if we're not, if we're gonna go the whole shot, I could live with it. Councillor Durston.
Thank you for the explanation. Now, my next question to everyone is what are we going to do with this building? Are we selling it?
I would
Is that
bet
the
that we
idea?
could make 3 or 4 apartments in it. And somebody will come along by it and rent it out. There's enough young people under 30 who are desperate for a place to live and work in this community, that if you had 4, single apartments, it would be gone in 30 seconds or less. Which is so I don't have any worries about this building. But anyway, I said, any other comments on building? Councillor Wade.
Through the mayor, I believe that childcare, it is a needed service. Regardless of where we are in Ontario. What my kids pay for childcare, and they have to pay even if the grandkids don't even go to that day. They're sick, they still have to pay, so I think it is a very needed service. I'd rather put money into daycare than an arena, by far. First of all, it's gonna be cheaper than building an arena. And to me, it's a much more needed service than an arena or a pool. So I don't have a problem with the daycare at all. And I think it seems to be the trend of where municipalities are going when they build new buildings, are putting daycare or even more daycare facilities in their municipalities, so I'm okay with moving forward with the daycare.
Any other comments? Councillor Gillis.
The comment that I had at the start is basically, I even wrote it down, it's a multifaceted building, like. Obviously, there's different needs in the community for different services, whether it be a daycare, whether it be a library or not. To have it within a building envelope makes the building more. I don't know if I mean sustainable, but more acceptable to the general public, that there's more services available in that building. That space, and we all know it's cheaper to go up than it is to go out. So if you're having more than one function in a building within that footprint, it makes it more efficient, makes it more, let's say, adaptable to different things. So obviously, you could build a building that's just a, municipal building and then add on it later. Well, that's not very efficient. Like, it's better to do it all at once. But obviously, I'd wanna, again, like some of the other concerns, know that that's what the plan was at the beginning. But obviously, things change 5 years, 10 years down the road. What can it be adapted to? Or is it designed that it could be changed or adapted? It's having that in, and that comes back to the big plan scheme of things.
Any other comments on that one? The last one I got is relatively simple. And as this council exits, the great strength of the next council, we'll take this wrong, the great strength of the next council is gonna be the staff who they behind. And they're the ones that are going to help the next council, whoever it is, move into the future and address the issues and the challenges and all that sort of stuff. And so one of the other things I haven't talked to Julie about this, I told you it was 4, this is the 4th one. was around, at some point, and I'm thinking April, May, when we finally have, two more staff people in, the administrative assistant and the, examiner and inspector in, and things kind of get evened out a little bit. Asking the CAO to look at, all staffing, and I don't mean the positions, but overall, are we staffed the way we should be? For efficient operation and getting the job done. And that's, me would be one of the, so that you're passing on, whether it be fully staffed or whatever, you're passing on a staff that can accomplish everything we need to do. I'm not asking for more than that, I'm just saying we need to do. Theoretically, that's what we've got. But at the end of the day, it isn't, the positions. It's the people that actually get stuff done. And if we need to make changes, I'd like to know that. This probably is a closed session report, but, or it could potentially be. But I think that's one of the things that I've been thinking about is, whoever the next council is, and it may be all you about me, which is fine. You want to make sure that they have the best possible contingent of staff and roles and responsibilities clearly defined and being functioning in a way that you sort of say, we're running as well, you know, it's as fine tuned as it can be at this moment in time. Next year will be different, 2 years from now will be different, but for this moment in time, it's as fine tuned as it's gonna get. I don't know if there's any comments on that. I do think with, you know, if you look at it, we've got a few people in the last year or two. And making sure that we have all bases covered to me is pretty important, so. Any comments on that? Councillor Gillis.
Mr. Referee, I think kind of the same way. I think, we've had different times where we've had a full contingent of staff compared to not having full contingent of staff. And I think, you know, that's up to the CAO to report back to the council, see what's working, or what's tweaked or whatnot. I think obviously we feel more confident in this full contingent of staff that more will go down. And I look forward to a report in the near future.
As I say, I don't want to see anything until after the positions that should be filled in January are filled, and you've got a couple of months for the ground to settle a little bit, and then sort of say, where are we? Because as the staff settle into place, the obvious holes that start to show up there. And it's gonna be, we're never gonna have so that everybody intermeshes perfectly. Just not gonna happen. Okay, that was me on the strategic plan. Who's next? Anything that you want to see accomplished over the next year? Foundational work that needs to be completed? Outcomes you're able to point to by the end of this term? Any other thoughts? Councillor Gillis, go ahead, please.
Or one, that's their coincidental. So yeah, it ties in, but it's not exactly on a report. So we'll talk about the large project at the barn at the museum. I think it's a thing that we should all be aware of. Working with getting a tender out to get that done. That's gonna tie in with obviously our building department a little bit. So it is undertaking a large project, and I think it needs to be, you know, it has to be accomplished by the end of the year. So I think it's something that we need to keep an eye on and help make sure it moves forward.
More of a management oversight, like not a management, an oversight, make sure that it's finished.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else people want to see accomplished?
I made some notes. So we just comment on briefly. We have to have a master fire plan, right? So you're working on that. We have to have a secondary plan for Mount Elgin. Who's working on that?
I'm working on that with Laurel.
We have the green buildings with Walter Fetty. We'll have finalization on that when,
The grant is complete and submitted.
yeah.
I hope by February we'll have a response on whether it was successful or not.
Another thing I had was, the Mount Elgin Park. Is there gonna be any direction on that before council changes?
So we just completed the public consultation on this. And all of the comments have been sent back to the consultants, and my understanding is they're going to be revising the concept drawings. And then they'll be providing a report to council on what sort of the finalized concept design is, and also what the estimated cost of construction, and whether or not we could do any kind of a phased in approach to construction. So I do hope to have that back to this council within the first half of 2026.
I had, election and projects. And I had some concern about what was going on with Daniel. So that.
We all,
Yeah. He's pretty quiet, right?
Just put quite it out.
Well, he's got two jobs, but you're getting some help, so.
Okay. Anyone else got any projects they, wanna see completed? Go ahead, Councilor White.
Yeah, through the mayor, that land next to, Strawboss and Dolores, has that all been okay through the county to start developing? Like,
No,
They don't want to develop,
the county does,
no, the owners.
the new owners, I thought the new owners bought it with the intention of, the property, I mean.
there is not a formal application right now on that, for that property.
Property behind the Lords.
Behind Lords that were supposed to, that was sold, right? And the Lord had, his house severed. And I thought the new owners were planning on developing that.
They have presented a couple of concept designs, but there's nothing,
Okay.
they haven't confirmed what they would like to do, yeah,
Okay, that's fine.
there's still some work for them to do before they can finalize an application for subdivision.
Okay, I guess I'm basically wondering where that one's at. It kind of just stalemated.
Yeah, they're running into some challenges because of the hydrogeology of the ground.
Yeah, it's wet out there.
It's very wet. And they have to do some work to determine whether or not it can hold structures. So,
Okay,
Okay. Anything else? Anyone else? Anything that, you want to bring up, Bill? You can start perspective.
no, some of the things that I noted as priorities for 2026 are things that we've just talked about now. So I was really looking if there's anything else that was really nice to focus on.
Well, Councilor Frederick.
Julie, what did you mean by advancing the stormwater infrastructure? I read that in your report, I didn't quite understand what that was.
So we are still working with Rob Walton on developing operations and maintenance plan for township storm sewer infrastructure. So we implemented the stormwater fee bylaw last year, and we started collecting fees on it. It's also preparing for us, like a manual on operations and maintenance that we need to carry out moving forward, and timeline for different projects and things like that. So we hope to have that complete by the first half of this year as well.
He discussed that when he was here about having some type of manual that we could follow, council staff actually could follow to sort of say, okay, now we need to clean this out, or now we need to fix that, whatever. Okay. Anything else? Councilor Buchner.
I just wondered about progress on the Vincent drain, whether it's still at a stalemate. It'd be nice to have that completed.
Yeah, it's out of appeal.
Yeah.
So we're still waiting for a decision, which likely won't be until late March.
There's nothing in the Vincent drain that, correct me if I'm wrong, that we can do now. If the appeal goes for or against. But the then is going to see.
Right.
That the appeal needs to be completed, or that needs to be done before we proceed.
Right.
So that's when I have to wait till the appeal period, or the appeal is over, the decision made, and then you can proceed with our. The only other one that I had thought of, and it's kind of more of a not really a strategic sort of direction, but is the housing development in Beachville. I think there's 22 units in what's the name of that? Pine. Mark Berg and Company. Yeah. Is that have we heard anything from that lately?
We recently had a meeting with them just to talk about some of the concerns that we have from fire perspective. And so they are making some changes to the draft plan. My understanding is how it was left. They're gonna be making some changes, submitting that, and then that would be circulated and scheduled for public meeting. Right? I think that's how it was left.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. They're gonna add in water cisterns. And where they,
We basically left them options,
okay,
so they're gonna look at options.
Okay. Okay, that was the only one that was kind of been hanging around for a few years, and that would be nice to get that one cleaned up, but
we just met at the end, just before Christmas, we had.
okay. Under strategic plan, anything else anyone wants to raise? Councillor Wade.
Mayor, this has to do with the roads department. I know everyone on a gravel road wants it paved. But the cost is a lot more beneficial to leave gravel, less maintenance, and I think maybe we should be thinking more of just rebuilding gravel roads and not paving them. I mean, that's not gonna go over well, but you know, I think the biggest market that damages our road are agriculture businesses with they don't have weight restrictions on dump trailers and manure tanks. And I think that's the hardest thing on some of these roads. Pave it and then let them go up and down the road with more weight than what some of the licensed truck is in. I just think it'd be better if you just kind of rebuild these roads and maintain them as a good solid gravel road. And I mean, that's not gonna fly well to a lot of people, but that's just my opinion. I think we need to just think, do we need to pave more roads, or do we just need to rebuild and maintain this gravel?
So that raises the question about where's that supposed to find the gravel? Once the pit is empty in what, 10, 15 years? 15, 20?
Yeah.
So, no, it is
Yeah,
a long term, and quite frankly, it's probably the next council's worry. But it is one of those long term things where you start saying, it would have been nice to have bought a pit across the road from where we are, so. Anyway. Any other questions for strategic planning? Looking at the plan here. We got a few minutes to, if we don't, Councillor Rickard.
The Lowville, it's not Lowville, the pond,
Centerville Pond.
Centerville Pond. That's a mess, we're leaving somebody, but it was left to us too, so. I don't know, what do we do with that?
Well, there is some direction on it. And
From the last report that came to council, we have advised the pretends that we want to proceed with dam removal and nationalizing the area, so. I have to go back and look, I think that the first part of the EA to do that would be in 2020. And that they were gonna be applying for funding, but I can double check on the timing though, whether that was 2026 or 2027. 2026.
Thanks.
Wacky,
That's what I thought,
wacky funding,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so there is some remedial work that has to be done. Some of it was done last year, there's some to be done this year in the first part of the EA, and then I think the second part of the EA would fall in 2027. But it's still gonna be a few years out, and we still will need to put money aside annually in the budget to pay for the dam removal when the time comes, once we have recommendations from the EA.
Anything further? Okay. Next thing, we'll move on then to, we want a motion, Julie, for the Strategic, yes, you do, okay. By the way, motion to receive this information. Moved by Frederick, second by Jason, resolved the council township such office, report CAO 01/2026. Strategic planning session report, setting priorities for 2026 is information. And for the council providing direction to staff regarding priorities and focus areas for the final year for 2022 to 2026. Council, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, so carried. On discussion items, invitation to, from the mayor of London to attend a meeting on conservation authorities. I'm not available that day, and I wondered if someone else would be willing to go in my place. Now, normally, I would look at Gillis and say, congratulations. On the other hand, if you're interested or want to, great. If you're not, and think somebody from one of the conservation authorities, we got 3 people, so. Go ahead.
So in saying that, I could be made available, but I would think on this topic, it might be better to have a member that's actually on the conservation authorities. And obviously, if they cannot make it, I can make myself.
So, Councillor Way, Goldner, and I won't ask Councillor Yellen today, so.
I'm unavailable that day.
Congratulations, Councillor Goldner. You know, there's a time when the last person put his hand up.
Yeah, I know how that.
Are you available that day? I think it's a week this Friday.
Yeah, I think I'm a little
Right.
Okay, that's okay with me. All right,
And where will the meeting be?
hey,
Where is the meeting in
it's
London?
in London,
Okay.
and I think it's 10 to 11 or something.
10:30.
10:30.
On Friday.
Yeah, I have another meeting exactly the same time, so. Okay. All right, do you need anything to, any motion or any action from council on that?
No, I've been taking notes here.
Okay. We've all agreed that Councillor Buckner will be our rep. Unless somebody else wants to. Anybody else want to volunteer?
Not available.
Congratulations, Councillor Buckner, and thank you very much for taking that on. So, moving on to consent agenda. Do we have a motion now? Or is there anything there you wanted to take out? Not all of them on CAs. Councillor Buckner.
Just note the file.
So your motion is to note and file 1 to 23?
23.
Okay, any discussion? You moved it. Who seconded it?
We need a second yet.
I know. Seconded by Frickard that 1 to 23 be noted and filed. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Accounts payable. We have a mover for that, moved by Way, seconded by Gillis. The accounts, result of the following accounts to be approved for payment. Accounts payable December 14th to January 2nd, 2026. $3,663,722.46 for payroll number 26. General, $83,370.76, payroll number 12, council, $8,669.82, payroll number 11, fire, $25,207.39 for a total of $3,780,870.43. Any discussion? Councillor Frickard.
Can you remind me what Quinn Drive, what that's about?
We paid the county to pay Quinn Drive, right?
Yep, correct.
Oh, geotechnical threw me off.
Yeah.
Inspection.
Yeah, that was just the asphalt inspection, it was third-party geotechnical. They've hired, that was just all part of it, that, it was very minor.
So it didn't cost 65,000 to get it inspected?
No, it was only about 2,500 for inspection.
Okay.
That was for the paving, that's for the paving and building work they did that.
That one quit.
As they were doing Selfridge Road.
Yeah, I didn't
So that-
understand how an inspection would cost 60,000.
Well, Adam doesn't compete. Any further discussion on these? Councillor Brookner.
Oh, as Councillor Picker would say, is there enough in the bank account?
And the answer is?
Is it yes? Yes.
Okay, good. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, that's carried. And well, the next meeting, will we have a report, say, we made or lost money last year? No. Bylaws and agreements, we have the, and the Whaley Grain borrowing bylaw and interim tax levy, and go ahead, Cory.
Through the mayor, we're gonna. We'll split these into 3 resolutions, one for. The drainage for East Branch to Huron Island, one for really drain branch A, since we have council Buckner to declare the conflict of interest. Both of those need 3rd reading, so an individual motion for both, and then 1 motion for bylaw 1 and 2. 2026.
Okay, so, Council Berger, just stay there, we're gonna do the first one. Oh no, you are the waiver man.
Yeah, you agree.
Okay, so. I know, we're gonna do the second one first, and then we'll bring Councilor Booker back to the other 2 bylaws. So we're actually doing bylaw number 73, 2025, drainage works for the Whaley Drain. And, we have a mover and seconder, moved by Gillis, seconded by Way, and the bylaw would read.
The following bylaw be read a 3rd time and finally passed, bylaw 73 of 2025, a bylaw to provide for drainage works for Wheeling Drain Branch A.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, that's carried. Councilor Booker, you can go back, please. And now we need a motion for bylaw number 70. Moved by Becker, seconded by Way, and the bylaw would read.
The following bylaw be read from 3rd time and finally passed, bylaw 70 of 2025, a bylaw to provide for drainage works for the East Branch of the Huron Island Drain.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Bylaws 1 and 2 moved by Thurston and Gillis. Any discussion? On either the bylaw, oh, sorry, read the bylaw now.
That the following bylaws be read 1st, 2nd, and 3rd time and finally passed, bylaw 1 of 2026, a bylaw to authorize borrowing for the township of Southwest Oxford, and bylaw number 2 of 2026, a bylaw to provide for interim tax levies for the year 2026.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Any notice to the motion? We can do this now or do it later. I think I'll wait till later then. So let's do council roundtable. And Councilor Thurston, you're first today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Been very, very quiet over the holiday season. And the only thing that I would like to mention today is about the Selkirk Hall Gathering on January 13th at the mill. And it's our late Christmas celebration. Mr. Mayor, you have been invited. Julie, you have been invited. If anyone is interested, either you two of attending, and it starts at 6:30.
6:30, okay. Anything else?
No, that would be it.
So before you say nothing else, the Inform and Engage tour of the food project in Ingersoll. Were you going to ask if anybody else on council, other than Councilor Bookner, was interested in going so that, when I get the date set up, we know who to invite? Or you want me to ask? Go ahead and ask.
Okay, I'll ask. Is anyone interested in going on the tour of the new build? Well, it's not a new build, but the food.
Project.
Food project.
Would you arrange the time and date?
Dates, arranging the time and the date.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, I wanna know who wants to go, so I know how many people to tell them they're coming. We have the Inform and Engage committee wanting to go,
Yes,
so there's 4 or 5 there. Kilmer, myself and you and a couple others. And so if anybody else was interested, I'm thinking sometime in the next couple of weeks, if I can get it set up. They're actually up and more or less running right now. Anyone interested? Probably after lunch. Would that work?
that's fine.
Yeah. You're gonna vote, he's already, Councilor Way, are you interested in?
It's after lunch, my mornings are kind of busy, then after lunch, yeah, I would enjoy that.
Okay. I'll see if I can aim for kind of a 1:30-ish.
Yep.
Just a question, would any of the staff like to go as well? If they got that arrangement?
I'll leave that up to the CAO to determine whether she wants anybody to go. Councilor Pickard, are you interested?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so, I'll aim for an after lunch, does it really matter what day? I'll see what they've got available and then I'll let everybody know, but assume that there'll be about 8 of us all together, maybe.
That would be good.
Okay. All right.
That date is, I think.
Okay, and in that also, they did send a budget. But it didn't make any sense to me. So I think we need to have them, we put $4,000 in our budget to help fund operations there. If they want the money, I think they should come and explain their budget to us in a way that makes sense to us. So I'll talk to them about that as well, about whether they're interested in coming. Okay. Councilor Pickett, you're next.
Slinger Parks and Recreation is having a meeting February 4th, and I know Julie, I'm bringing it up early because you mentioned you wanted to come.
Yeah, I talked to Don Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah, about attending just to talk about the Holland Park terms of reference.
You're ahead of the game. Okay, good. Very quiet. I had a lot of discussion with a local about respirable crystalline silica. Which is an issue, I guess, at some gravel pits. So we're gonna just bring that up because we're gonna hear a little bit about that this year. With silicates and dust from gravel. It's either a health hazard and isn't a health hazard, so what started out as a potential zone change is now come into a possible challenge of some existing developments. Stay tuned for more information on that one, so I just bring it to your attention. Because it's gonna be important. Nothing to do today.
That's yours? Okay, and Councilor Gillis, you're next.
Oh, thanks. Relatively quiet. A lot of questions about the garbage schedule for some reason and how that's working out. I don't know why. I can't understand why. Something about 2 different trucks there before the end of the year, going down the road, picking up. A lot of people just, I don't know, it's confusion. I don't think it's angst. It's once we get the schedule figured out of what's going on, I think it'll help everybody. But yeah, everybody's a little, what's going on kind of deal. I think that most of the messages through the waste information that went out are pretty good for the most part, but I think getting everybody on the same page with everything is gonna take a little bit of time, a little bit of understanding. So along that line, I did have a question yesterday, and this one, actually I have 2 questions. They're gonna go to Adam's plate, so I might as well ask them. The plastic container at Beechville Fire Hall, did it go to get dumped or?
It was dumped the last week that we were able to dump it, and it's been removed. We're no longer in any type of recycle business at all. This is where,
Film plastic now goes into the blue box.
So they will take, so that was a question people had, they will take it now.
according to certain materials, they are, but again, I can't speak to anything that they're accepting.
Okay, so that,
County says they're taking it.
so we should probably advertise that or make people, I think that was, obviously after the holidays, believe it or not, people have a lot of packing materials. And that was a popular spot, obviously, putting that in there, so I think that needs to advertise a little bit more. I can honestly tell a couple people about that, so that'd be great. And then with the snow, there's lots of concerns and questions about that too. So this one's for Adam as well, about sidewalks. So what is the difference or the reason why the plow versus the blower on the sidewalk?
If we get too much snow, we can't push it, so we gotta blow it, but we prefer to push it, but plow. It's much faster, more economical, and get things done much faster. No, majority of municipalities in Ontario only use plows. Like the ones we bought from Richmond Hill and another municipality, they have no blowers at all, they only push. Same with a lot of municipalities around, so we're in Oshkosh County, just push. But if it becomes too heavy, then we have to plow. Or we have to blow it. That's like East Road Road, when the county comes in to wing back and stuff like that, it goes right on sidewalks. So it is challenging.
Yeah, I realize that, and I know that's the thing, and I think we need to obviously tell people that's the reason why we do it. I think some of the people, especially on Beechville Road, obviously appreciate the blower a little bit more. It does a better job of keeping we'll say snow out of the end of their driveways on a more tuned fashion, and I think that would obviously help them, but again, that is your domain, so it's up to you. And I'll send complaints over to you,
Well, I've received a few.
yeah. So I just
I mean, it's
wanted,
just, I think it's one of those years that we've received more snow in December than we normally would in any other winter, so people are seeing it more often. End of the day, that's how snow removal is done in South Oxford. It gets pushed off the side of the road, send it to the sidewalk, so.
yeah, I think the reasoning makes sense, it's just educating the public of that too, or why we do it that way. So anyways, I will appreciate the works department's efforts to move all that snow in the last little while, apparently they've been busy. So, thank you guys for that. Other than that, looking forward to the first, museum board meeting of the year next Wednesday.
Okay, Councilor, you had a question,
Yeah.
Councilor Becker.
I read somewhere that in Southwest Oxford, the city of Woodstock, since it's a 6-day garbage pickup, the recycle is going to be picked up the same day, so that's kind of a convenience for
Yeah, it makes.
our residents.
Yeah.
The site recycling will be picked up the same day as
Yeah,
your garbage, it's just gonna be a different truck. Cause in Tillsonburg, I don't believe it's gonna be the same day as my garbage. It's gonna be 2 different days, so.
I don't, and Tara didn't actually tell us what they were doing.
I gotta check the
about 10 days
website
before.
for the start date on Wednesday.
And so I give them credit, they did line it up with the county, so, but I thought they were lining up everybody with the county, I don't know, if you know.
I thought of everything lined up as well, so.
So I think
Okay.
it will be the same day now.
Okay, cause at one time it wasn't.
Right.
Chair's Cloud's contract for 27 with garbage and Tillsonburg anyway.
What's that?
They still have the contract till 2027.
April 2027.
Right, so they'll still be co-collecting in those municipalities, it's just Southwest Oxford, Woodstock, that had to change.
Yeah, we're the only two
Right.
that switched to organic, so there should be no difference
There's be no difference in Tillsonburg.
until May of 2027.
That's right,
But
okay.
even then, so. Councilor Gillis, go ahead,
Thank you.
and I'll get back to Councilor Becker.
But then speaking to that, the individual businesses that had registered, they're on a separate day. Correct?
Correct,
They're on the which,
they are on a separate day, yes.
okay, I didn't know that.
And there, I believe it's on a 5-day week cycle, because our facility here is Thursday pickups. Every Thursday is our recycle pickup.
So they're gonna drive by and pick up residential, and then another day they'll send a truck back just to pick up.
Which is a county provided program for the
It
residential.
doesn't matter who provides it, it just doesn't make sense.
Absolutely, does not.
Anyways, Councilor Pickett, you're next.
I wanna go back to snow removal and ask Adam if the issue at Roslyn line. Did that get looked after?
First time hearing of an issue on Roslyn,
Oh, really?
just off Clarkton.
Well, I don't know, I gotta,
That's where it is.
Yeah,
I haven't heard anything.
you didn't get anything?
Not from
I
Roslyn
got
Line.
an email from a resident of Roslyn line. Very critical.
oh, no, I haven't received anything from her.
I'll share it with
Sure.
you. I assumed everybody.
Oh, I didn't get it, so
Okay.
It's like, you
just fix the good councilors.
Yeah,
So,
well, good, just,
we just skip back for half a second to, I think it was, you'd raised the issue of recycling. Did anybody else get a, something from Antera telling you what goes in the blue box now? Cause I don't think I did.
I got a date change, but I never got anything changed from our list of products that could go in.
Okay, Adam, we wanted
We
to.
did receive an updated list of what's in and what's out, but the county had asked us not to share it. Because certain materials was so flaky on what they were doing, they were up and down and changing their mind at all times, so that was the last they said not to share it, so I mean, I can share it now, I guess, but. We did receive an updated list from.
Okay, so that, I'll find out with the county, but, I'll get back to you on that one then.
Even just for our own staff, like, where they're gonna receive calls. From residents about recycling, like, then we're Southwest Oxford's completely out of business, and other than that answer, be nice to give them a number to call.
So Antera did provide a number though.
Not, well, I'm sure they have a number, but I haven't seen it yet.
Well,
Unless
let's
it's-
call the county and find out what the number is, because they did send one, I saw some, oh, you got it.
We shared on social media, information for who they can call regarding.
Oh, okay.
but Adam doesn't pay any attention to you. I mean, to
Social media.
Okay. The reason I ask is because now the question of plastic is one, styrofoam is another one. You know, when you get a piece of cardboard and a piece of plastic on top of it and a toy or tool or something in it. Both halves are supposed to be able to go into recycling.
Right.
And a lot of that stuff, we gotta do a good job and it'll come to Inform and Engage tomorrow, is it?
Are we having a meeting tomorrow?
Sort of, how do we get the word out to people, if there's an opportunity to, so. Okay, sorry, Councilor Brookmeyer, you're next.
Busy over the holidays at the home board by the amount of recycle that I had to take out. It was 8 boxes full, so it was quite a lot. There is one minor sad note, was I got an email from Deb Riley yesterday that sometime over the holidays, somebody tried to break into the sharing cupboard and destroyed the locks on it. And the only time they could figure it happened was when a renter was there, but the renters have been repeat customers, so it wasn't like there was anybody in need from there. So it's somebody that snuck in and tried to pull off the locks and the hasps with a crowbar or something. They actually were not able to get into it, but there is some damage to the closet. So it's just a sad note for you trying to help out the community, and somebody thinks it's to their advantage to steal it all. Instead of just asking for help, because there are phone numbers on there, if you have need, when it's closed, give me a call.
Yeah.
So that's and other than that, the occasional forum and all board meeting a week from tomorrow. And probably a Catfish Creek meeting sometime in the near future. I've got the dates, but I haven't got them in my book yet, so.
Thought on the sharing cupboard. People will break in, and not very many, like very few people will actually do that. But they won't call for help. And it kind of reminds you of the stigma that people feel when they feel like they're not quite accomplishing what they should be able to do with their own lives, right? Like that sense of desperation. So while I'm sorry about the cupboard, it makes you concerned about the person. Like somebody that's breaking in because they just can't quite make ends meet, or for personal gain, but there's not that much in the sharing cupboard that's personal gain. I mean, it's not something you're gonna put on eBay. Okay, Councilor Wood.
Yeah, we're just finishing up our rentals at the Christmas rentals at Fulton's Hall. And I'm wondering for an AGM, whether it be the first Tuesday in February, or would you prefer the first Tuesday in March? Probably March would be better.
Either's okay for me.
I'll check with Mitch and I'll get back to you, let you know. So, but that's about it.
Good. I didn't really have anything for roundtable since county council hasn't met since last time we met, so they meet next Wednesday. So, nothing for closed session, confirmation by law, then let's be next, unless there's any other new business we haven't covered. We have a motion then for the constitute, but confirmation by law, moved by Brookmeyer, seconded by Gillis. And motion agreed.
The following bylaw be read for second and third time and finally passed. Bylaws for 2026 to confirm all actions of the meetings of council for January 6, 2026. And further, the parents are hereby authorized to sign the bylaw for corporate.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, that's carried. Before we adjourn, there is lunch downstairs. There will be, okay. I didn't think we were gonna be this long, so, dates to remember, nothing on there that, were out of the ordinary, so, obviously, it's not everybody read the January 7th meeting. date, but anyways, we need now a motion to adjourn. Moved by Thurston, seconded by Gillis, that we adjourn at 11:55. To reconvene again on January, whatever it is, 20th. At 6:30 PM. All those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. We are adjourned. Thanks very much, folks.
Thank you.
Sent to that Roswell.
Yeah, it sounds like it's not lining up or something.
That's all.